The first player that comes to mind when we're talking NBA trade deadline and likelihood of being moved, it's got to be John Collins. It
Yeah.
seems like he's been on the chopping block for at least a season and a half now.
Yep.
Everything's not okay in Atlanta. As Austin said in our chat earlier, they're mid right now.
In every way, yes.
Do you think moving John Collins is the right move? Because he is having a down year, but you know my opinion on Atlanta star players and scoring this season.
So he, I think the way I'm going to take this is more in the grand scheme of things for the organization and what they mean. Because so in the grand scheme of things, you trade John Collins. Okay, what is your path forward with Trae Young? Because I have maintained that someone needs to be alongside Trae Young that at least is arguably better than him. I think that Murray is really, really good and it's not working. So you need to figure out how to fix it because I am positive they did not make the Murray trade thinking that they would be fighting for a play-in tournament spot. So I guess my question is, what are you hoping to accomplish with trading Collins? Are you hoping to acquire picks to then get more players? Are you trying to get those players flat out for Collins? And what teams would then facilitate that? What are you trying to accomplish? You think the issue is the coach, Nate McMillan.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't trading John Collins doesn't get you closer to that resolution for you, correct?
Correct.
So then are you just banging your head against the wall? What to you, what would be a good return for Collins and what would you possibly hope to accomplish? Because if you are committed to Nate McMillan working, ideally you would probably want to get more defensive pieces like a big that's more traditional defensively, maybe a wing, and see what you got with that with McMillan. But there's also another side of that is maybe you want draft picks to see if this core isn't what you want it to be. So I'm gonna let you take it from there.
Right. So
I'm not sure what they would what the goal is with Atlanta. That's my point.
so first let me preface this by saying I don't think Collins' down year is necessarily entirely on him. I'm not saying that the team is looking to move him because of his down year.
Right.
I think the team is, for whatever reason, committed to Nate McMillan, and as you said, the idea would be to build a team that is going to actually fit Nate McMillan.
Yep.
Um, Collins doesn't fit that at all.
Nope.
So
I think he fits Trae Young well though.
he does fit Trae Young well, and that will lead to a question I've got actually in a second. So first, I think we need to talk about what teams have been linked to John Collins, which it's actually a huge list, which makes sense because he's a big that can stretch the floor.
Right.
So the teams I've got in front of me are Houston, New Orleans, Washington, Phoenix, Brooklyn, Utah, Cleveland, Miami, Clippers, Pacers, Dallas.
Jesus.
It's a huge list. Um, Now, in terms of assets coming back, they're going to want someone that can play now. You don't necessarily have to have a veteran player coming back in this trade because Trae and DeJounte are both still young. But at the same time,
So of that list, and I know you went through it pretty quickly, the two teams that popped out first were the Pelicans if you're going to get draft capital because they have a lot of picks,
right,
and the Mavericks if you want to get Nate McMillan players because while they're not going to have like a star player, they are going to have role pieces that can play defense that would also potentially space the floor.
Yeah.
So, in fact, maybe even God, I cannot think of players' names. Who is the player the Dallas Mavericks were linked to trading?
DFS. Dorian Finney-Smith.
Dorian Finney-Smith.
I think Dorian Finney-Smith would probably be that player involved in a
That was
John
who I
Collins
was
trade.
going to say.
Yeah.
So, going completely off a tangent here because this is he hasn't been rumored at all.
Who, Dorian
If
Finney-Smith?
you are what?
Who hasn't been rumored at all?
I'm going to ask you a question.
Okay.
So, imagine, if you will, that you, instead of being Angelo,
Yep.
are Landry Fields.
Okay.
Okay. You have Trae Young.
Uh-huh.
Are you looking to trade Trae Young and building around DeJounte Murray as your centerpiece going forward?
Am I willing to trade Trae Young? And
Are you actively looking, even if you're not? Because we know, like, there's no such thing as a leak in the NBA. They're putting things out there.
yeah, 100%.
So, behind the scenes, are you shopping Trae Young? Given the drama this year with the coaching staff, the flying in separate planes, and I'm letting you keep your own personal opinions on Trae. So you can keep those and all that. Are
Okay.
you trading? Are you looking to trade Trae Young? And if so, what kind of return are you expecting, given that you don't think he's all that?
Even if I don't think he's all that, I still am going to ask for the sun and the moons. But regardless of that, Rudy Gobert got 5 first-round picks. Is Trae Young better than Rudy Gobert?
Absolutely.
So there you go. And that's why the Gobert trade is kind of skewed the trade market. Yeah, if Rudy Gobert is worth 5 first-round picks, Trae Young is worth at least 6, 7, 8, whatever number you want to put out there. You're not getting the return.
Right.
So so here's the thing. I don't think Trae Young is really a Nate McMillan type player.
He's absolutely not. And
So if you're committed to Nate McMillan and you think Nate McMillan's the guy who's going to get you to the championship, yes, you have to trade Trae Young. Because DeJounte Murray is more that Nate McMillan player than Trae Young is. Now, I don't personally think that's going to lead them to success, but if that's the route you want to go, that's kind of what you got to do.
yeah. Side note: the only player that's, at least as far as I've seen, that's been actively linked to the Hawks, because I'm kind of just going through each team and the players on that team. So the only player that's been linked to the Hawks directly is Kyle Kuzma. Do you think that would help or hurt? Because realistically, he's just another John Collins.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. I'm like, that's not defensive enough for Nate McMillan.
Yeah,
Just,
he's a different flavor of John Collins.
yeah, pretty much.
So I don't know. Moving